Today we are watching 10 real life deaths caused by video games. That has got to be one of the worst ways to go out. There's a big reason my kids will not have access to the internet.
In 2007, 16-year-old Daniel Petrick
Game
shot
over is a
both
bit
of
peak
his
to put at
parents
the start
over
of
a
this.
disagreement about Halo 3. After his parents found out that he had purchased the game against their wishes, they took it away and locked it in the home safe. Daniel found the key to unlock the safe. Unfortunately, his game was right next to a gun. Reacting on impulse, Daniel grabbed the gun. He then snuck up behind his parents and said, "Would you close your eyes? I have a surprise for you." Then he shot them both,
It's so
killing
sad
his
with
mother and
people like
critically
this.
injuring his father. After Daniel shot both of his parents, he then put the gun in his father's hand so he could make it look like a murder-suicide. As the police arrived on scene, they found Daniel trying to flee in the family van. With the Halo 3
This is why my kids will not play video games. They won't be iPad kids. They won't have phones until they need them. Nothing. They don't need it, bro. Like, kids are too easily manipulated and led astray, and it can get really dangerous. I'm not saying most kids kill their parents because of video games, but go play outside, bro.
game in the passenger's seat, make it look like a murder-suicide. As the police arrived on scene, they found Daniel trying to flee in the family van. With the Halo 3 game in the passenger's seat, Daniel could not have been given the death penalty. He was given life in prison
he was really
and won't be eligible for parole until 2032.
He was persistent in not losing that game.
Only known as Chuang died at an internet cafe in Taiwan after reportedly playing the video game Diablo 3 for 40 hours straight.
Oh my
An attendant
God.
at the cafe found
Not even a
Chuang
good
resting
game.
on the table next to his computer. The attendant woke him up. Chuang then stood up, took a few steps, and then collapsed onto the ground. He was pronounced dead soon after arriving at the hospital. His death was due in part to a blood clot in his leg, presumably from sitting in front of that computer too long. Blizzard, the
But does your body not like tell you,
released
man?
a statement that said, "We feel that moderation is clearly important,
Yeah.
and that a person's day-to-day life should take
Moderation
precedence
in
over any
absolutely
form of
everything.
entertainment." A 17-year-old Philippine teen
Anything
murdered
can be
his
taken
own
too far
grandmother
without moderation,
after she
you know what I mean?
interrupted his Dota match. The teen had been playing Defense of the Ancients in a neighborhood internet cafe. His grandmother, who told him not to play that game anymore, went to pick him up and return him to their home. When the woman began scolding him about the game, he alleges that he blacked out and beat his 68-year-old grandmother to death.
This
The
is
teen
really
cleaned
sick
up
video.
the bloody crime scene and called his aunt, who then called the police.
Disgusting,
The victim
man.
was found with wounds on her neck.
It's what I mean,
chest,
kids,
head,
they
and
don't
arms.
need
Police
these
officers also
fantasy
found
worlds.
blood-stained
Like,
ceramic
build who
shards of
you
what
are in
appeared
the
to be
real
a
world. Go
smashed
make friends,
vase
go
in a garbage
socialize.
bin in the
That's
front
why
yard.
nowadays everyone has such a big issue with social anxiety and this and that. It's because they live too much of their life online in a fantasy, made up, stupid world.
Grandmother who had raised the boy since early childhood. Police officers also found blood-stained ceramic shards of what appeared to be a smashed vase in a garbage bin in the front yard. The grandmother who had raised the boy since early childhood on her own was killed because the boy wanted to play a video game. South Korean man Lee Seong-sop wasn't just an avid player of StarCraft, he was addicted to it. He let the popular real-time strategy game take control over his entire life. In 2005, he started spending all of his time playing the game, which cost him his job and longtime girlfriend. Lee would spend almost all of his money in an internet cafe to play it. He was used to playing 14 to 18
These
hour
internet
sessions,
cafe ones
but
are the
when he
saddest
started a
bits, you know.
50-hour
Just shows how
session,
desperate
that
they
was
are
the
to
end
play.
of his gaming days. At the end, he collapsed and died from exhaustion and dehydration. When it comes to games, there's a difference between healthy enthusiasm and an
Do you know what I
unhealthy
mean? Like
addiction.
these ones where they kill a loved one around them, that's disgusting. But when they end up dying themselves, it's like, I don't have any sympathy for you whatsoever. It's completely your fault. You would know Saturday you're dehydrated, your eyes are dry, and like, you just need a break. Like, you're that addicted to it. It's insane. It really is.
17-year-old Warren LeBlanc of Leicestershire, England, got life in
Shot
prison
someone,
for
didn't he?
emulating a death scene in a video game in 2004.
Oh, no.
The game in question, Manhunt. The game was developed by Rockstar North.
Never heard of this.
Armed with a knife
I thought it
and
was going to be
claw
GTA,
hammer,
but it looks
Warren lured
a lot
14-year-old
worse.
Stephen Pakira to a nearby park. He bludgeoned and stabbed the boy over 50 times
Oh my
until he
God.
died. In the trial, the mother of the victim was forced to leave the room as details of her son's horrific murder were explained to the court.
Oh,
At the end of the
horrible.
proceedings,
I don't like these blood photos, but you know the worst bit is when someone, like, they go crazy from it, their psycho mode kicks in and they just pull a knife, stab them once, but after they could realise what they've done wrong and panic. Like the first boy, he tried to flee the scene in the family truck. This guy stabbed 50 times.
until he died. In the trial, the mother of the victim was forced to leave the room as details of her son's horrific murder were explained to the court. At the end of the proceedings, the judge stated, "One thing is clear. You and you alone were responsible for this prolonged, vicious, and murderous attack on someone who thought of you as a friend."
Yeah.
In 2013, an
8-year-old.
8-year-old Louisiana boy intentionally shot and killed
How does an 8-year-old get
87-year-old
hold of a
Mary
gun?
Smothers, his own grandmother. The event happened only minutes after the boy started playing Grand Theft Auto. Authorities believe he intentionally shot Mrs. Smothers in the back of the head as she sat in her living room watching television. Family and friends of the victim have stated that the victim and the juvenile had a normal, loving relationship and even shared the same bedroom. The sheriff's department released a statement saying investigators have learned that the juvenile suspect was playing Grand Theft Auto 4 just minutes before the homicide occurred. The boy, now living with his parents, won't face charges. Under Louisiana law, a child younger
don't get
than
why an
10 is
8-year-old
exempt from criminal responsibility.
Needs to play video games, you know what I
18-year-old
mean?
Devin Moore was actually
Nothing
arrested
good
for Grand
comes from
Theft
video
Auto,
games
not the
unless you're
game,
playing
but
like
real
father
life
and son
crime
together
in
and you're
2003.
having fun
While being
together,
processed
bonding.
at the police station,
Nothing
he
good comes
lunged
from
at
video
one of the
games.
officers and grabbed his .40 caliber Glock. He shot him and 2 other police officers in the head as he made his way out of the station to then steal a police cruiser. Once caught and handcuffed, Moore uttered, "Life is a video game. You've got to die sometime." In the trial, his
Bloody
defense
hell.
team tried to use the Rockstar game Grand Theft Auto Vice
Man's not
City
even
as
sorry.
a scapegoat for the young man's violent acts. Ultimately, Devin was sentenced to death by lethal injection.
Good, I say.
In 2014,
Good.
an
Don't
11-year-old
want these
boy
people
in
in
the
the world.
Philippines was stabbed to death by a 16-year-old male. Allegedly, the 11-year-old victim hacked into the older teen's online Dota 2 account. According to the family and police investigations, the victim was taken to a construction site where he was beat up by the suspect. His head was slammed on the walls repeatedly before being stabbed over 40 times. The 16-year-old suspect denied any contact with the victim. However, he was found with heavily blood-stained shorts and drops
I
of
just don't
blood
get how you
leading
go
up
out
to
and
his
plan
house.
to do
The
something
stabbing
like
was so
this.
horrific
It's really
that the mother
sickening.
couldn't recognize her own son.
That's bad.
28-year-old Philadelphia man Tyrone
recognize him, man.
Spellman beat his 17-month-old daughter to death in 2006 while playing the popular game Ghost Recon. His toddler crawled into the room and accidentally toppled over his Xbox, breaking it. In a fit of rage, Spellman repeatedly beat the child. Investigators contest that the child's battered body was then positioned next to a
toddler.
barbell in another room to make the death look like an accident. Spellman fled the scene but turned himself in the next day. Official autopsy reports indicate that the toddler's skull had been shattered and caved in by continued blows to the head. Spellman, who was a self-admitted video game addict, claimed that he did
Poor
not
child,
intend to
man.
kill the child. He was sentenced
I mean,
to
video
22
games
to
aren't good.
45 years in prison. In 2014, 12-year-old Peyton Lutner was stabbed 19 times and
think I've
left
seen
to
this
die
one.
in the middle of the woods.
Well, it's not Slender
The
Man.
culprits responsible for the attempted murder were 2 of Peyton's close friends, 12-year-old Morgan Geiser and 13-year-old Anissa Wire. The two
Yeah, I
girls
recognize
were
the one on the
trying
right.
to please a fictional video game character, Slender Man. They thought that if they sacrificed a real person to him, he wouldn't haunt them or hurt their families. According to court documents, they told detectives
Little
they had
kids
been
get
planning to stab
manipulated
her for
so
months.
easily.
Investigators
These
discovered
are
more
fake
than 60
worlds.
drawings of Slender
Where are
Man
their
in Geiser's
parents?
bedroom. One drawing depicted a girl lying on the ground
rules
and a
in
person
place.
standing over her with the message,
limits
"I
in
love
place.
killing
Don't let
people."
them do
Once
this.
the pair lured Peyton into the woods, one of the girls pounced on her and started to stab her repeatedly. During the entire ordeal, the victim was screaming in agony and saying, "I hate you guys. I'll never forgive you. I trusted you." Once the attack was over, the girls ran away. Miraculously, Peyton survived the attack and crawled her
didn't know
way
that
to a
bit.
nearby
Didn't know
trail
she
where she
survived.
was discovered by a cyclist. Lutner has made an amazing recovery from the attempted murder, and as of this year, the girl who came within a whisper of death celebrated her 13th birthday.
That's good, that's cute. But man, they're little girls. They're supposed to be like the most innocent of all human beings. And they're out here stabbing people, jumping and planning it as well. Don't let your kids play video games, and you yourself keep a limit on how much you play. Get out there and see the world.